Welcome to this deep dive on the real Japan. Today we're diving into a really remarkable but often overlooked part of Japan's incredible history and culture. We're talking about the Ainu, Japan's indigenous people. Our mission really is to shed some light on their history, their unique culture, and maybe some surprising connections they have globally. Think of this as your shortcut to getting, properly informed about a fascinating community. Their story is ancient, but it's also really relevant today.
It absolutely is. And it's a story that for a long time was kind of pushed aside in Japan's main narrative. But that's changing now, thankfully. What felt forgotten is finding its voice again. Their identity is starting to be celebrated, understood.
That's great to hear. That resilience is amazing. And listen, if you want to explore everything we talk about today in more detail, we've put together a complete guide. It's got all the links, resources, everything you need to maybe book some experiences we'll mention. Just check the link in the description. But okay, let's back up a bit. When most people think of Japan, indigenous people might not be the first thing that comes to mind. Had you heard much about the Ainu before looking into this? What's their background in Japan?
That's a really good point. It shows how much there is to uncover. The Ainu have, well, an incredibly long history in Japan, mainly up north. They were once found further south, even on Honshu, the main island, but their heartland is really Hokkaido, the northernmost island. We're talking tens of thousands of years they'd been in these areas, way before the Yamato people, who most Japanese people trace their ancestry to. Now, in more recent history, they faced a lot of discrimination. They were pushed to the sidelines, often pressured to assimilate. But like I said, there's a big shift happening now, a positive one, and their culture is getting the recognition it deserves.
Okay, so ancient roots, northern heartland. But what really makes the Ainu distinct? How do we start to grasp their unique identity?
Well, what's immediately striking is just how different they are, historically speaking, both physically and culturally, from the majority Japanese population. Traditionally, Ainu men, for instance, were known for having quite a lot of body hair, and they grew these impressive full beards, the symbols of wisdom, strength. And Ainu women had this very unique tradition of mouth tattooing. It would start when they were young teens, and more would be added as they got older, marking life stages until they were seen as, a full adult woman.
Wow, that's really distinct. The tattooing especially, and their lifestyle. You mentioned hunter-gatherers.
Exactly. Their traditional life was deeply tied to nature. Hunter-gatherers. They fished, they hunted deer and bear, gathered plants, living in balance with the forests and rivers of Hokkaido.
That deep nature connection sounds incredible, and the physical differences paint such a clear picture. It makes me wonder about their culture, their beliefs. Did they have their own language too?
Oh, absolutely. Ainu is its own language, really distinct, part of a language family separate from Japanese. Sadly, it's critically endangered now. Fewer than 100 fluent speakers left, maybe even less, which really highlights, how fragile cultural heritage can be and the huge effort it takes to try and bring a language back from the brink.
Fewer than 100.
That's staggering. It is.
Wow.
And culturally, what's the most fascinating spiritual practices is sometimes called arctolatry, bear worship. It's a complex, though. Bears were hunted, yes, for food, fur, necessities, but they were also revered as powerful deities called Kamuy, spirits who brought gifts from the divine world. Sometimes they'd even raise bear cubs in the village. It just shows this deep respect, this almost paradoxical relationship.
Hunting them, but also revering them. That's, fascinating. You mentioned Kamuy. Can you tell us a bit more about what they are in the Ainu worldview?
Sure. A Kamuy is essentially a spiritual or divine being, an entity with spiritual energy. The Ainu believe that Kamuy existed in basically everything in nature. Animals like bears, owls, sure, but also plants, mountains, rivers, even man-made things like tools or houses. The idea was these Kami came from the spirit world to the human world, bringing gifts, lessons, and then they'd return. So their stories, their rituals, everything emphasized respect and gratitude for the natural world. It was all passed down orally through ceremonies. It's a worldview where everything is spiritually alive.
That sounds like such a rich, interconnected way of seeing the world. And it's good to know that after being overlooked, discriminated against even, things are finally shifting. That official recognition must have been huge for them.
It really was. A massive turning point. 2008, that's when the Japanese government officially recognized the Ainu as an indigenous people with their own distinct language, their own culture. This wasn't just symbolic. It was a huge acknowledgement after decades, centuries really, of policies aimed at erasing their identity, forcing assimilation. Now, there are only a few thousand Ainu today, and there are still challenges, definitely. But that recognition was vital. It opened doors for cultural preservation, for empowerment, for starting to address those historical wrongs. It really kick-started new efforts in cultural revival.
Okay, so with this recognition and hopefully growing appreciation, how can people listening, how can you actually experience Ainu culture today? This is where it gets exciting.
Yeah, there's some fantastic ways to connect directly. One great example is the Marimo Festival. It happens every autumn, beautiful setting on the shores of Lake Akan in Hokkaido. And the Ainu people play a really central, vibrant role in it.
Ah, the Marimo. I think I've read about those. So those like giant fuzzy green balls of algae, right? Some get huge.
That's them. Up to 30 centimeters? Yeah, pretty wild. They're unique to the lake. The festival actually started back in 1950, partly as a conservation effort for the endangered Marimo. But the real draw now for many is seeing the Ainu traditions live. The torch parade is spectacular, 1,000 torches by the lake, plus traditional dances, folk songs. You might even catch the Soren Nishi song rhythm. Some taiko groups use it. It's a really powerful mix of nature and culture.
1,000 torches. That sounds incredible. A real blend of tradition and, well, environmental awareness too. Are there places you can visit year-round to learn more?
Oh, yes, definitely. In East Hokkaido, near Lake Akan, there's the Akan Ainu Village, or Kotan. It's not just a museum piece, it's a living community. People live there, there are craft shops, traditional houses, and it has the permanent Lake Akan Ainu Theater. That's become a real hub for contemporary Ainu cultural expression.
Right, and that theater has a show I've heard is pretty revolutionary, melding old and new. Akan-Yukar, Lost Kamuy.
Yes, Lost Kamuy. It's been running since March 2019, and it's more than just a show. It's an experience. It brilliantly mixes ancient ceremonial dances, the ones passed down for generations, with really modern artistic interpretations. What sets it apart is the tech. They use amazing 3D digital projections, 5 projectors actually, and this immersive 7.1 surround sound. And the story itself is powerful. It touches on how wolves, vital Kamuy for the Ainu, were hunted almost to extinction in Hokkaido. A strong message about our impact on nature and Ainu resilience. You can actually book tickets for it online, I think via the Klook website if you're planning a trip.
Sounds like a must-see, honestly. Deeply moving. Beyond Akan, are there other key spots for exploring Ainu culture?
Yes, definitely. Japan has invested in some important sites. There's the National Ainu Museum and Park called Upopoi, which means singing together in Ainu. It's in Shiraoi, Hokkaido. Very comprehensive. We mentioned the Akanko Ainu Kotan, the living village. There's also Ainu's culture and heritage, sometimes called the Gate to Hokkaido. And if you're interested in broader northern cultures, the Museum of the Peoples of the North in Hakodate is good too. It has Ainu exhibits, clothes, tools, photos, and about half the labeling is in English, which helps.
Okay, lots of great options there, really valuable places to visit. And just jumping in with that reminder, again, that complete guide we mentioned, it has links to book tickets for things like Lost Kamuy, details on the museums, all that. Saves you searching around. The link's right there in the description on the website. Definitely check it out if you want to plan a visit.
Yeah, good point. And moving on from visiting sites, it's interesting how many people first come across the Ainu through, like, pop culture these days.
So true. I know for a fact many people, including me initially, learned about the Ainu from that big anime series, Golden Kamuy. It got a lot of praise for trying to show Ainu culture fairly treaty, the hunting, the spirituality, even their historical links with Russian neighbors up north. It definitely got people curious.
Yeah, Golden Kamuy definitely brought them to a huge global audience. There's also a graphic novel series, Kabuki, by David Mack. It's more for adults, but it explores themes touching on Ainu ancestry in a contemporary setting. These modern stories, they play a big role in bringing Ainu history, their struggles, their amazing resilience to new eyes, new generations worldwide.
And this is where things get really interesting, I think, when you start looking at the bigger picture. The Ainu story seems to connect with other indigenous groups around the world in some surprising ways.
Absolutely. When you zoom out historically, anthropologically, you start seeing these really compelling parallels. Physically, culturally, there are similarities noted between the Ainu and the indigenous peoples of Okinawa, down in Japan South, and also Aboriginal Taiwanese peoples. What's significant is that all 3 groups faced, similar pressures and oppression from the expanding Japanese state historically. It suggests maybe ancient connections, shared migrations, or at least shared experiences.
That's fascinating. And I've even heard some more maybe speculative observations, like similarities between a language in Peru, Quechan, and Japanese, suggesting maybe ancient land bridge crossings. And visually, people often point out resemblances between Ainu and some Siberian groups, or even Native Americans in the Pacific Northwest, like the Haida.
Exactly. These observations, they raise complex questions, sometimes debated ones, about ancient human migrations. They make us rethink the old maps and timelines. You can draw parallels with the Maori in New Zealand, too. Like the Ainu, skilled navigators, hunter-gatherers, and linguistic and genetic links trace back towards Taiwan. suggests incredible ancient sea voyages across the Pacific. It just shows how much of the human story we're still piecing together, one clue at a time.
So we're potentially talking about ancient ocean travel, a more connected world long ago than we usually think. And the language links. This is where it gets really wild. I've read about proposed connections between Ainu and Basque.
Ah, yes, the Ainu Basque Connection. That's one of the most baffling and intriguing linguistic puzzles out there. You've got Ainu in Hokkaido, Basque, or Euskara, tucked away in the Pyrenees between Spain and France, separated by, 10,000 kilometers? Yet some linguists point to striking similarities in structure, maybe some vocabulary. Definitive proof is elusive, to say the least. But these hints fuel speculation about incredibly ancient, incredibly distant migrations connecting seemingly unrelated groups across continents. It's similar to theories about Japanese maybe having ancient links to precursor languages in Korea, even if the modern languages are very different. It points to a much more complex, interwoven ancient world. It really stretches the imagination about what early humans were capable of.
It really does. It makes you realize how much we don't know about the earliest chapters of human civilization.
Yeah.
So much more to discover.
Totally. We have to stay critical, look at the evidence, but also keep an open mind about these evolving theories. There are big gaps in our knowledge. And it's worth remembering how the Ainu story itself has traveled. Think of Bronisław Piłsudski, the Polish ethnographer exiled to Sakhalin in the late 1800s. He did some incredibly detailed studies of Ainu language and culture, really devoted himself to understanding them. Or, this is amazing, there's an account from 1980 of Ainu medics somehow working in a hospital in the UK. It just shows the reach, the individual stories extending far beyond Japan. Their story isn't just contained to Hokkaido.
There is just so much there. We've really only just begun to explore the depths of Ainu history and their culture today. And remember, for all those specifics, museum names, theater details, links to book things, head over to the website for that complete guide. The link is right in the description. It's your gateway to exploring more and continuing your own deep dive.
Yeah, this whole discussion really highlights the resilience, the enduring spirit of the Ainu. From ancient times right up to their cultural revival now. It's a powerful story of adaptation and perseverance.
It really is. An ongoing story of recognition, keeping traditions alive, sharing their culture. It offers so much insight. So maybe a final thought for you listening at home. What do you think the future holds for the Ainu? And what can their story teach us about all the hidden histories out there and the unexpected ways our world is connected?
That's a great question to mull over after we finish here.
We really hope you enjoyed this deep dive from the Real Japan podcast. And hey, if you find Japan as fascinating as we do, why not subscribe to the Real Japan platform? You'll get Rob Dyer's Japan Travel Bulletin newsletter sent to you every 2 weeks. It's packed with info and it's completely free. Thanks for listening, and until next time.